a wooden crate full of dry sand, a bale of straw, a bucket of cold hardwood ash, a small pot of melted beeswax. Total cost, $4, maybe less, with those four materials. A single family in 1935 stored 1,200 pounds of fresh vegetables through a full 7-month winter. Carrots, beets, turnips, parsnips, cabbage, potatoes, apples, pears, onions, winter squash, all of it pulled from the garden in October. All of it still firm, sweet, and edible the following May. No canning jars. No pressure cooker, no freezer, no electricity, no refrigerator, no grocery store, no shelf-stable pouches, no aluminum cans, no flash-frozen pouches, no preservatives. No additives, no chemicals. Nothing came from a factory. Nothing came in packaging. Nothing was purchased after the seed went in the ground. Before 1950, this was not rare. It was not a homesteader novelty. It was not an heirloom practice. It was Tuesday. Every rural American family, and a significant portion of urban families with a basement or a cold porch, used some combination of sand, straw, ash, and wax to store their entire winter food supply. The method had been working since the Roman Empire. Then, in the span of 2 decades, a handful of corporations convinced an entire country that vegetables in winter required a metal can, a label, and a price tag. The American canned food industry generates $108 billion a year. The frozen vegetable industry adds another $14 billion. The shelf-stable packaged food category adds over $50 billion more. Combined, the American industrial vegetable preservation industry pulls in over $170 billion annually from one problem: how to keep a carrot from rotting. The average American household spends between $1,600 and $1,800 a year on preserved vegetables. That includes canned corn, canned beans, canned tomatoes, canned peas, frozen broccoli, frozen spinach, jarred pickles, jarred sauerkraut, dehydrated soup mixes, and every vegetable sold in a box, pouch, or can. Walk into any American kitchen, open the pantry, count the cans. Most households have between 20 and 40 cans of preserved vegetables sitting on shelves at any given moment. Purchased, used, discarded, and repurchased on a cycle of 3 to 6 weeks each. Over a 10-year period, the average household sends $17,000 to the preserved vegetable industry. Over a 30-year period, the length of time most people live in a home, that number exceeds $54,000. $54,000 spent on vegetables that arrive dented, dated, and sodium saturated. Solving a problem that was already solved for $4 a winter using sand and straw from a farm supply store. The $0 method has no packaging, no BPA lining, no sodium preservative, no metal leaching, no best by date, no aluminum can to recycle, no frozen food aisle, no grocery run in February, no supply chain, no truck, no warehouse, no shelf. It has a sand, it has straw, it has ash, it has wax. It stores every vegetable a family grows. It always has. The reason you do not already know this is not because it stopped working. It is because a $170 billion industry cannot exist if you do. Every dollar you spend on a can of corn is a dollar extracted from a problem that your great-grandmother solved with a crate of sand. The entire business model depends on one thing, that you never find out what her cellar looked like. In 1933, at the deepest point of the Great Depression, over 40% of American families lived on farms. The other 60% overwhelmingly had access to a basement, a root cellar, a cold porch, or an insulated pantry. And every single one of those families stored vegetables the same way. Root vegetables went into crates of dry sand. Cabbages and apples went into beds of straw. Potatoes went into wooden bins layered with wood ash. Hard cheeses, eggs, and cured meats were sealed with melted beeswax. The entire preservation system cost almost nothing because the materials came from the land itself. This was not deprivation. This was competence. Then came the post-war industrial food boom. Between 1946 and 1965, American food manufacturers tripled their advertising budgets. Television entered 44 million homes, and the commercial canned food industry saw an opportunity that would reshape the American pantry permanently. In 1946, Continental Can Company and American Can Company controlled over 80% of the domestic canning supply. By 1950, the Campbell Soup Company alone was spending over $15 million a year on advertising. Adjusted for inflation, that is nearly $200 million a year in today's money. On one product line. To sell you cans of vegetables your grandmother was growing in her backyard. The strategy was not subtle. You run magazine advertisements showing a modern, sparkling kitchen with shelves of perfectly uniform cans. You contrast those cans with a grainy black and white image of a dark cellar full of dirt. You pair canned with words like modern, safe, and scientific. You pair cellar with words like dirty, old-fashioned, and primitive. You do this for 15 years straight, in every women's magazine, on every daytime program, in every supermarket display. By 1960, it was done. A generation of American women who had grown up watching their mothers layer carrots in sand now believed that the only proper way to store a vegetable for winter was to buy it in a can from a store. The knowledge was not outlawed. It was not disproven. It was simply drowned. Under $200 million a year in advertising that said there was a better way. When there was only a more expensive way, in 1941, researchers at the United States Department of Agriculture published a bulletin titled Storage of Vegetables and Fruits in Basements, Cellars, Outbuildings, and Pits. The document detailed exact methods, temperatures, humidity levels, and storage times for every major root vegetable and fruit. It confirmed that properly stored carrots in sand remained nutritionally equivalent to fresh carrots for up to 6 months. The bulletin was quietly retired from distribution in the early 1970s, not banned outright, just never reprinted, never referenced in any home economics textbook written after 1965, never included in any grocery store circular, never mentioned in any food preservation guide sold at a modern bookstore. The research was done. The results were clear. The public was simply never told. The system has 4 components. Every single one of them is available for almost nothing at any farm supply store, hardware store, or directly from a wood stove. Here is exactly what each one does, how it works, and what it stores. Component 1. Dry sand storage. A 50-pound bag of clean builder's sand costs $4 at any hardware store. That bag fills 2 storage crates. Those 2 crates will hold 150 pounds of root vegetables through a full winter. Sand works because of 3 physical properties. It holds a stable humidity between 90 and 95%. It blocks all light, and it prevents air circulation around the vegetable. Root vegetables rot for one reason. Moisture loss combined with oxygen exposure triggers enzymatic breakdown. Sand eliminates both variables at once. The method is simple. Use a wooden crate or a cardboard box. Pour 2 inches of dry sand across the bottom. Lay carrots, beets, turnips, parsnips, or celery root in a single layer, not touching each other. Cover completely with another 2 inches of sand. Add another layer of vegetables. Cover again. Continue until the crate is full. The final layer must be sand, not vegetables. Store the crate in a cold, dry location. Between 32 and 40 degrees Fahrenheit is ideal. A basement, a cold porch, an unheated garage, a root cellar, or an insulated shed all work. Carrots stored this way remain firm, sweet, and full of moisture for 6 to 8 months. Beets last 7 months. Parsnips actually improve in flavor, becoming sweeter as their starches convert to sugar during cold storage. Remember, a 10-pound bag of carrots at the grocery store costs $15. A properly packed crate of sand holds 75 pounds of carrots for the cost of a $4 bag of sand, one material. $4. Stores carrots, beets, turnips, parsnips, celery root, and radishes for an entire winter. Asterisk Component 2. Straw layering. A small square bale of clean wheat or barley straw costs $4 at a farm supply store. A single bale stores over 200 pounds of cabbage, apples, pears, and winter squash. Straw works because it creates insulation and air pockets simultaneously. Apples and cabbages require a different storage condition than carrots. They need air circulation to prevent ethylene gas buildup, but they also need insulation from freezing temperatures and humidity stabilization. Straw provides all 3 in a single material. For apples and pears, line a wooden crate with 4 inches of straw. Lay apples in a single layer with gaps between each fruit. Cover with 2 inches of straw. Add another layer. Continue building. Properly stored apples last 4 to 6 months. Late variety apples, such as Winesaps or Arkansas Blacks, can last 8 months in straw. For cabbage, pull the whole plant, roots and all, out of the garden. Wrap each head in 5 layers of loose straw. Hang upside down from the roots in a cool basement or cellar. Cabbages stored this way stay firm and fresh for 4 to 5 months. For winter squash and pumpkins, lay them on a straw-lined shelf with at least 4 inches of space between each squash. Do not stack. The straw prevents contact with cold concrete floors and absorbs any minor moisture from the squash skin. Butternut squash stored this way lasts 6 months. Hubbard's last 7, one material, $4. Stores apples, pears, cabbage, winter squash, and pumpkins for most of the winter. Component 3. Wood ash preservation. Hardwood ash from a wood stove or fireplace costs nothing. Collect it in a metal bucket after every burn. 1 winter's worth of ash from a single wood stove stores over 100 pounds of potatoes. Ash works because it is strongly alkaline and completely dry. Potassium carbonate and calcium oxide in hardwood ash raise the surface pH of the potato, killing surface bacteria and fungi. The alkaline environment also discourages sprouting, which is the primary cause of potato deterioration in winter storage, the method. Use a wooden bin or a lined cardboard box. Pour an inch of dry ash across the bottom. Lay unwashed potatoes in a single layer. Cover with another inch of ash. Continue layering until the bin is full. Store in the coolest, darkest corner of a basement or cellar. Potatoes stored in hardwood ash remain firm, unsprouted, and flavorful for 7 to 9 months. A 50-pound harvest of russets stored in a free bucket of ash produces the same result as a $50 investment in commercial potato storage solutions. Ash storage also works for onions, garlic, and beets. For onions and garlic, braid the tops together and hang the braid in a cold, dry location. Dust lightly with ash once a month to prevent neck rot. 1 material. $0. Stores potatoes, onions, garlic, and long-term beets for up to 9 months. Component 4. Beeswax sealing. A 1-pound block of pure beeswax costs between $8 and $12 at a farm supply store. That block seals over 100 cheese wheels, 300 eggs, or 200 feet of cured meat casing. Beeswax works because it is antimicrobial, oxygen impermeable, and stable at room temperature. When melted over a food surface and allowed to harden, it forms a complete seal against bacteria, mold, and oxygen. Before refrigeration, this was how every hard cheese, every preserved egg, every smoked sausage, and every cured ham was stored. For hard cheese, melt beeswax in a double boiler to a temperature of 180 degrees Fahrenheit. Dip the cheese wheel completely. Let it cool. Dip again for a second coat. Store in a cool cellar. A wax cheese wheel remains stable for 8 to 12 months. For eggs, known as the water glass alternative or oiling method, brush each unwashed fresh egg with melted beeswax. Store in a cardboard carton, pointed end down, in a cold location. Eggs sealed this way stay fresh for 6 to 9 months. For cured meats, brush melted beeswax directly onto the surface of smoked ham, bacon, or hard sausage. This replicates the centuries-old method used in every European butcher shop before refrigeration. 1 material. $12. Seals cheese, eggs, and cured meats for close to a year. 4 materials. $20 total. An entire winter of vegetables, fruit, dairy, and meat. The chemistry has not changed since the Roman Empire. Sand regulates humidity. Straw insulates and circulates air. Ash neutralizes bacteria. Wax seals against oxygen. The cans on the grocery shelf do the same things. In factories, using metals and plastics and preservatives with $1,800 annual price tags. Walk into any Pennsylvania farmhouse cellar in January of 1935. Any Iowa homestead basement, any Vermont root cellar, any Maine pantry. You would have found the same 4 things. Crates of sand full of carrots and beets. Straw-wrapped cabbages hanging from roof beams. Buckets of ash layered with potatoes. Wheels of cheese and hanging ham sealed in beeswax. This was not regional, it was universal. From 1620 to 1940, over 300 years of American domestic life, these 4 methods fed families through every winter in every state. There was no alternative, because no alternative was needed. The system worked. It was cheap. It was passed from grandmother to mother to daughter, in every family, across every economic class. The Romans used sand storage for carrots and radishes in the 1st century. Pliny the Elder wrote about the method in his Natural History, published in 77 AD. European monasteries in the medieval period stored root vegetables in sand pits cut into stone floors. The technique crossed the Atlantic with the Pilgrims in 1620 and never changed. During the Great Depression, when 40% of American families earned less than $1,000 a year, cellars were full, shelves were full, stomachs were full. Winter came and winter went, and no family went hungry because of seasonality. Not because these families had access to advanced food preservation technology. Because the technology was never needed, Finnish farms still use the exact same sand storage method in the 21st century. Russian dachas rely on wood ash potato bins through winters of minus 30 degrees. German farmhouses seal cheese in beeswax the way their ancestors did 1,000 years ago. It was the most universal food knowledge in human history. and it took exactly 20 years of television advertising to erase it from an entire civilization. For $20, one bag of sand, one bale of straw, one bucket of ash, and one block of beeswax, you can store an entire winter of fresh vegetables, fruit, dairy, and meat. Starting this harvest season. No factory, no can, no freezer, no electricity. The same 4 materials that fed American families for 3 centuries will feed yours next winter. The complete system, including exact storage temperatures, humidity charts, vegetable by vegetable timing guides, and cellar construction plans, is linked in the description below. It covers every method of food preservation, every room-by-room storage layout, and every formula your great-grandmother used to feed 8 people on less than $1 a day. Tomorrow, this channel will show you the exact Depression-era cast iron treatment that outperforms every modern non-stick pan, and why cookware companies spent $15 billion to bury it. Every product in your home once had a $0 version. They buried it, now you know.